mai, haere mai e te whānau. Welcome to the Flight of the Next podcast. My name's Holly. I'm on Gadigal land in Sydney, as is Danny. Back on the podcast after a long hiatus, our wonderful guest, Ethan Franson. Ethan, how you doing?
Mixed feelings. It's been a mixed weekend for the teams, but good after the Sunday game, definitely.
Certainly a mixed bag of results for the weekend. We will start with the men. That was versus Macarthur at Sky Stadium on Saturday. A 1-0 loss. Macarthur in the 83rd minute. Sawyer, and he did some sort of wankery goal celebration that the Fever started booing. I didn't quite get it. The angle on the broadcast wasn't very good to see what he was doing. Look, Josh was huge in this. Honestly, there were a couple of times we easily could have conceded more goals, especially that huge 1v1 that he had. And I think we actually got close in some spots. Like our XG was poor, like it was 0.65 to their 1.77. But look, I mean, 93rd minute, Carlo Armiento just drew an incredible save from Curto. And we talk about this every time we talk about the fact that we're going to be playing Curto, as he's going to have a cracker because he's a very, very good shot stopper. Yeah, unfortunately, just we are now 17 A-League Men matches without a clean sheet. Ethan, you're in the stands. Why don't you kick us off with your thoughts?
Hello, there we go. Technical problems. Ironic because I work in IT. It was a really not a fantastic game in the stands. I mean, it was a very low crowd, and that was very evidently felt in the Fever. We felt like we were missing a few, but then I can also not blame particularly those who haven't turned up. It was a pretty grim game. I think we had more possession, but there was no intentness or directness of the play. We get the ball, and there's just no even, we don't look like or even feel like we're going to score or have any lethal attack, and then they can get the ball and progress it up, and they look direct and like there's a chance of scoring. I think it's funny you mentioned the 3rd minute save from Curto, because while he's a good keeper, that was our only shot on target. So if you don't shoot, you don't score, and we wonder why we lose games. And it's, if we spend 93 minutes not shooting on target, of course we're gonna lose. So yeah, it was pretty depressing from the stands, in all honesty. Maybe a bit of hangover from the derby loss as well, but yeah, it's not been a fantastic back-to-back weeks at Sky Stadium for the men.
Yeah, I really did enjoy this game either, watching it on TV. It just seemed such a low energy game from the Phoenix. It was like all the players were basically channeling Rufer's jet lag. It was like, yeah, I could have understood him being a bit slow and a bit off it, but they all seemed to be off it. There was very little energy. Again, no directness, as you say. All the poor things that we've seen this season, except for the high line, which seemed to work, all the poor things we've seen were really on display there. All the lack of inventiveness going forward. Didn't enjoy it. I really did not envy the person who's putting the halftime highlights together, because there really weren't any halftime highlights. So I don't know what they did. They must have been tearing their hair out going, somebody do something so we could put a highlight on. And I'm pretty sure that, and I looked at the clock when I first heard it, that Jason Pine didn't say the words Finro Akonji until the 36th. I genuinely don't think he mentioned his name until then, which sort of says a lot about, not just about Conchi's performance, but about the team as well, getting that ball up there and doing something with it. So I found it really disappointing, and I didn't enjoy the game at all. Yeah, there were a few things I think which may have led to it. I thought putting Sheridan on at right back really stopped us getting wide. Look, Sheridan's a really solid player, but as an attacking right back, I don't think that's him. The time that he did get forward, which wasn't that often, he was coming inside, so he was sort of doubling up with Najarine in his areas. We didn't get it wide at all, which Loki's new, but one thing he does do is get it right down to the corner and put a ball in when we get there. So we didn't have that at all. So nothing was going forward. Najarine and Conchi just not getting involved enough up there in the attack. It just seemed like Eze was doing everything by himself. And technically there's 3 of them up there. Okay, Eze is third forward, but there's 2 number 10s there which should be combining with him and with each other. And they just didn't seem to be doing that at all. I mean, yes, they've got that press to be getting on with, which they're supposed to do. but also they're supposed to be attacking as well, and that just wasn't happening at all. So we weren't creating anything up there, despite, as I say, one of the players who came out with, we credit Eze, I think, Olaway, and he came out with credit, and Nagasawa, I think, were the three players who came out with the game with any credit. Eze works so hard, just runs and runs, does everything by himself. At times he's coming back in midfield and picking the ball up, which is, he doesn't say much about our midfield. And even gets back in defence. I think that one-on-one that we had where they broke out from the corner, I think he was basically the first person back from there because he just ran the length of the field. So my criticism of the team doesn't stretch to Eberici Eze, if I may, Eze, because he's, does everything he could, and he had a couple of chances, off chances, but the rest of the team really didn't help him at all. And the fact that we didn't have Luke Smith to come on to inject some energy was a bit disappointing. Corbin Piper came on and things changed a little bit, because things always do when Corbin Piper comes on. But that only lasted sort of 10 minutes or so. And then again, Macarthur seemed to sort it out. They just, as you said, Ethan, they just seemed to be more direct. They seemed more happen when they came forward. They had a lot of joy down their left-hand side. Politides against Sheridan, he just seemed to have so much space to get down there all the time and put balls in. And if it wasn't for the fact that Duran, having a Mexican and their Korean striker, didn't flattered to impress, flattered to deceive, I think, when they were getting the ball, we could have been 2 or 3 goals down by half-time, and it wouldn't have been that surprising. And when they scored, it just seemed to be indicative of the game that we played in terms of the number of people that were running back and running back fast. James just seemed to be jogging when Sawyer was way ahead of him, and even Lucas Kelly-Heald really should have been at that second ball before their attacker was, and he wasn't as well. It was really disappointing, but not surprising after we've seen the game. So. Hopefully we can write this off as sort of a bit of a one-off performance, and they'll come back in the next match. But they really need to get some energy in there, because it wasn't good to watch, and the result was pretty much all deserved, I thought.
Yeah, I'll add to that a bit. I think our midfield trio of what kind of looked like Conchi, Nagasawa, and Rufa was just lifeless, almost to say. There was nothing really huge happening there. Sure, they can shift the ball around, and if Roof is the one in the deeper role, but there just wasn't anything particularly special coming out of there as well. Yeah, I agree. Schwenloke was quite unlucky not to start, and then even more unlucky not to play any minutes. If the team's playing averagely, we put Corbin Piper on in the first, and then we wait till the 89th minute, and we put Supic and Sloan Rodriguez on. And I think this might be I understand we've got a couple of injuries at the moment to people like Retre and Ishige, but the bench from that game was almost exclusively Academy and Dan Edwards, who's got not a lot of A-League experience. Anaru Cassidy, Loke, Edwards, McCarron, Supic, Sloan Rodriguez, Piper, we don't have any difference makers off the bench, and the only reason Piper's on the bench is because he's nursing that injury, so otherwise he'd be starting. So, think about it like that, and that's another warning sign, is if we're, 5 games in and our bench isn't doing a lot, if we get 1 or 2 more injuries where, we're losing that depth real quick off the squad, and it's, making it a little uncomfortable for the rest of the season.
I think we've got a similar problem that we had last season in terms of we don't really have that creative midfielder or someone who can really create something out of nothing. Nagasawa was the closest, and I actually think him and Rufa aren't too bad sometimes in midfield. Maybe not yesterday, but they're not too bad. Rufa is the one that sits deep, wins the ball, gives it Nagasawa, who can do something a little bit different with it. But we seem to have the problem, yes. At half-time, Nagasawa and Conchi switched. So Conchi dropped back and Nagasawa went further forward into that sort of inside forward 10 role. And nothing really seemed to happen there, because Conchi doesn't have that creativity at all in midfield. So we stopped having anything, and then it was like we did nothing until Piper comes on, and that helps it out, because then all we do is just launch it up top, which was actually more effective, but it's not really the way we want to play football all the time. It's nice to have that as an out ball and an occasional thing, but we can't build our entire playing style on lumping it up to Corbin Piper at the top. And as you say, I think that match, the three up front with Eze and then the two tens, which have been Najjarine and Comchi pretty much all the time, but occasionally Agasaga goes in there, and then we switch it up with 70 minutes to go with LBS or Corbin Piper. I think we've got to look at that because they're just not creating enough chances. I mean, I would be tempted to try LBS from the start instead of Conchi in that inside left. At least he's got a bit of energy. And then, okay, maybe Piper from the start if he's fit in there as well, or maybe try one. And Gabby Sloan Rodriguez, we've heard so much about him. We've got to give him some minutes to try and do something. I'm not sure we've got anything to lose at this point. Give him a good run so he can actually try and create something because he's supposed to be skillful. He's supposed to have that vision. And I think the reason we're not doing that is because I think Najjarine and Conchi are good at closing down and high work rate, and so therefore we control it a little bit better. But if we're not creating anything, we're not scoring goals, then we're always at risk of that 1-0 loss as happened on Saturday.
I think another thing
there just seems to be a bit of a malaise around the team a little bit, and I think I definitely feel that with the fans. We had an attendance of 3,677, which is really, really low. Now, obviously, Danny and I aren't regular attendees of the home matches. Ethan, what's your sense with what's going on there? I know sometimes it's busy and sometimes this happens and that happens, but that's low. What's the chat like in the stadium about that and about for you?
I think it's similar to the crowd we had. I think it was it Perth Glory. End of last season, we had a really low crowd in the 4,000 or 3,000, but it was April. We'd been horrific all season, and we had it was senior football starting back up, and Cuba Duper was on. So it's like I would rather go to those instead of that. Derby sales were looking particularly low on the whole as well, but yeah, then there was the Derby was low, but there was also a big festival on the waterfront, and there was the darts. So you're missing a lot of people there. So we were all right, 12,000 for the Derby, but there was nothing else on Wellington on Saturday. It was a beautiful sunny day. I think it's just indicative of, the state that the results are in and the style of very unattractive football we play. I think I might be wrong, but it does sound like it was our lowest attendance in Wellington ever. Last season we went 2020. Oh, I've lost my years. 2024, 28th of December against the Jets was the last win. Then we had one at the start of the season, the home win against Brisbane to break that. And then, so, we're one win in a calendar year at home. I mean, currently this era is being referred back to the Kalisic era, and I was not going to football back then, probably thankfully, because apparently that was quite a mouthful to watch as well. But, it's on the verge of some of the worst two seasons results-wise in the club's history. Yeah, I think, and just the football itself is also pretty unattractive. When we controlled the game, we got it round and we get it right around the edge of the box, and we'd sit in those half spaces between the box and the touchline. And we'd play these little triangles, and then we'd Cruyff turn it, and then we'd turn it over. It would either go flying cross to nobody, pass to straight to their centre backs, and every time we got round the edge of the box, it was like, oh, right, here we go. We're going to piss around with the ball, or it's going back round to the centre backs, and we're going to bring it back round, do the same thing, go back round. And yeah, there's just no real urgency or anything. So I think it's a combination of everything, which is sad, but look, I can't really blame those who don't turn up. So yeah.
I think I said on this pod after the Derby that although we lost, it was an incredibly entertaining game, and if people don't turn up to watch it again, then they obviously don't like football. And obviously, I was proved wrong. People don't like football; they like winning, and I think it's as simple as that. If we win more games, people will turn up, and the style of football probably has a say in it. But I think people want to see winning games. Obviously, there are the hardcore. All three of us would go to see Phoenix play anywhere and anything, doesn't matter what the results. And there's a few like that, but we're losing the ones that want to see some winning. Okay, they'll put up with a bit, but they want to see some winning. We've lost a long time ago the people who were turning up when we were, winning game after game after game. So yeah, it's tough. I don't think there is any solution other than, again, to start winning games again. Again, whatever that takes to win the games. I mean, interesting, if you look at this weekend, Western City Wanderers, who on paper have this amazing side, amazing attacking side with your Kraevs and your Quolls and your Barbarossas and your Fergates, Borello's, just an amazing side, but have been losing a lot. They got 6,500 at a home game against Central Coast and New South Wales side, so you would have had some away fans there as well. 6,500. That's for one of the big beasts of the competition. So we're not alone in this. We're not the only team that struggles to get people through the gates when we're not providing them with a product, a winning product or an entertaining product, preferably both. But it needs to be. I think the winning pitting is the important bit. So, but it is worrying because obviously of those 3,600 or whatever, who's going to come to the next one after that? Who's going to? How many of them are going to tell their friends, "No, you really should come because it was great fun." It's like, well, it didn't look like great fun to me.
I'm going to go with the like $1 million question, which we haven't really talked about much on this pod, but at some stage, are we going to need a change of coach during the season? I mean, we had the issue last season of persisting with things that weren't working, and he got another year. And now, are we looking at a similar kind of thing where it's persist? Is he going to persist with something that's working? I know that there's a lot of there's always on social media. There's always a lot of bashing going on, and lots of people have shit takes, and I have shit takes too sometimes. But I mean, where are we at with that? Because I don't want to have like the same kind of season we did last season where we get to the end and it's just like that was really disappointing and something in the club needs to change or someone.
Yeah, I'll agree. I don't think if we're going off the basis of last season where Chiefy's contract expired, I think that's a very key point to note. I don't think he did enough to earn a new contract. I don't think we should have sacked him mid last season but see it out. And I don't think he did enough to earn a new contract. However, he's convinced the club that he should. But if we don't pick up another win before Christmas, then he's time to go. He's got to go. You just can't, because insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. And we just, it doesn't look particularly good for the rest of our games. I mean, we've got, I think it'll be Jets and Central Coast, those two home games on the Sundays right before Christmas. We really need to be picking up points there. And if we don't or play really poorly, then I think his time's up. But yeah, and it's especially different when someone like an Aloisi is out of a job at the moment. Sure, we don't really know what's going on with Western United, and I doubt anyone really does. But, they're the type of manager or something. But yeah, no, I think he's walking the line very fine, and a couple of bad results could swing it. I mean, we've got high-flying Adelaide at home this weekend, and I doubt there will be a massive turnout, nor we will most likely get pumped. And then we've got the Auckland Derby away. Enough said about that one. So yeah, it'll be an interesting time.
I could see the rationale behind giving Chief a new contract in that, okay, season wasn't great, but the season before was great. And, that was mainly down to him. We had a bad season, but we were so brutalized by injuries that, the plans that we had just never were going to work. So you can see, okay, one good season, one poor season, not 100% his fault. Let's give him another go. This season, obviously he needs to produce. We've got some bad injuries as well, but it's not all bad injuries. We've still got quite a lot of our players on the pitch. And up until now, it's been up and down. We've had some, we scored quite a few goals. We've got more goals in Auckland, but we've had some horrendous defensive errors as well, and some of it looked bad. I think if we could carry on what we've sort of seen up until now, which would be scoring quite a few goals, maybe letting in a few bad ones as well, winning some, losing some, but playing with energy and playing, with some of attacking flair, I think people would be reasonably happy with that. But when you get a performance like you did on Saturday, when there's no energy, and therefore there is no attacking, there are no goals, then the negativity is just going to grow and it's going to grow. And look, on social media, it thrives on negativity. You know, that's the nature of that beast. It will, and it will spiral down. But eventually it does leak into the real world as well. And it'll leak to the fans and it'll leak to the players and to the club. And at some point, someone's going to make a decision. Okay, if this is the way it's going, we need a clean break, and we need to change something. We need to change the narrative. We need to turn something around and do something, whatever it is. And changing the coach is an obvious thing to do. And it's not get, as you mentioned, it's not going to get easy for the next couple of games. Are tough. If we don't get results out of that, then the narrative might be too much, and we might have to do something again. Whether that's Aloisi, whether that's Greenacre, whether it's something completely left field, who knows? Bev Priestman taking over both teams, who knows? But yeah, you would think that they're going to have to change something. We can't go on having games like the one we had at the weekend for the rest of the season, because the attendances will just drop to nothing and it'll become so toxic it'll take us seasons to get back.
So speaking of next up, we have Adelaide. Adelaide at home, Sky Stadium, Saturday, November 29th, 5 p.m. New Zealand time. Adelaide came off a 4-1 victory over Melbourne City, despite having played an hour of that game just with 10 men. Adelaide are a big ask. You never know, we can pull it out of the bag, but Jesus, Adelaide are good at the moment. Any thoughts on how that game's going to go?
Oh, I don't have a lot of faith particularly. In all honesty, I don't know if I can make the game. I think I might be saved by a stag do so. But yeah, they play some good football. Yeah, that was a huge statement win. Looking at it, their 2 losses are 2-1s, both to Auckland and Macarthur. So, look, I think Adelaide are very definitely the favourites coming into it against us, and it will be rough. We have to do something different. We don't have the people to change around the squad, so either they need to come out and play like different people, or we need to change the game plan. Maybe the 5-back isn't working. We need the extra bodies in the mid, or I don't know. But we can't. If we do the same thing, we'll have the same, if not worse, result.
I mean, the one interesting thing about the A-League this season is that there doesn't seem to be, I won't say there's not many bad teams, but all the teams seem to be on a bit of a level. So the teams that you would have expect to, the ones that would be the easy beats, your Brisbane's, your Central Coast, your Newcastle, they're all picking up results here and there. And the ones you expect to run away with it, your Melbourne Cities, your Western City Wanderers, they're not. And even your Aucklands are looking that invincible. Sydney doing well at the moment, but they're not looking spectacular. Their team doesn't look as good as they did last season, but they seem to be just being a bit more consistent, being a bit better. So in a way, that gives us an opportunity to actually do quite well, but also it means there are no easy matches for us to win. So it could go either way. Adelaide have been pretty decent, and that win at the weekend, putting 4 goals with 10 men against Melbourne City, is pretty impressive. I struggle to see how we're going to score enough goals to overcome the goals that they're bound to score against us, because they will score some goals against us. Do we have enough to score that? As I say, I think something's got to change. We've got to get some more energy up front. I think we've got to. I'm not necessarily saying that the formation has to change, but I think the personnel will have to change a little bit. I think we need to put somebody in who can get crosses in on the right and get down the flanks. And I think the 10s up there need to show more attacking instinct. Is that GSR? Is that LBS going in there? Yeah, I'm not sure. But yeah, something's got to change. And I'm not at all confident. I don't think we'll win this. I'd like to think we'll show a lot more energy and a lot more attacking intent in this game. Maybe score a goal or so, but I still don't think we're probably going to.
All right, well, let's move on to happier pastures. We are located at Porirua Park. We had the women, they played Melbourne Victory. We had not managed to beat them thus far in our history. We did beat them 1-0. Our player of the match was Ali Walker. There were quite a few people who were really good. We still have no Samba for some reason, even though there was a big fanfare about her being back in the fit. List, obviously not fit enough to go. We joked last week about her working in the Momo truck. There was a photo of her outside the Momo truck. Obviously, she wasn't working inside the Momo truck, but I hope that she's playing next time, so that that truck can do a good trade. We were coming together. This was just a game where it starts to come together, and we are missing obviously Alyssa Wynnham and Tessa Mittag, who those three little letters that we talked about last week. Those have come true. They're out for the season. Torn ACLs. Those are big losses from probably the starters that Priestman would be wanting to put on the park every week. But I actually really enjoyed having Mania Elliott and Emma Main starting. They're good players, and we shouldn't just leave them every time to be like, you're the Chaos Merchants with 20 minutes to go. So it was really nice to see them. 38th minute, let's see, it's Vlock at the back post across from Mania Elliott. I think the wide ball comes from Jale, just really well worked. We're really good at switching the ball, really good at putting in crosses. Was really nice. Vlock becomes our youngest ever goal scorer by 1 day. Millie Clegg having been the youngest goal scorer up till that point. I think Vlock is already a revelation, and she's going to be really, really good this season if she keeps it where she is. And now with no Alyssa Wynnham, to get that one of those creative players sort of in the middle of the park, she's a great option. We struggled a little bit more in the second half. I wouldn't say struggled, but we were under the pump. And Victory are excellent. They just had so much of the ball, and we were just attacking and attacking and attacking. There were some really good saves. There were some good blocks. We had a couple of counter attacks that could have gone somewhere, but honestly, that I don't. It was really frustrating watching the end of the game because, like, I think it was 6 minutes given, 5 or 6, and then it ran till like the 99th minute, and we're just like, just by the whistle, just by the whistle, which I'm sure the Fever was saying the same thing on the field, on the stands. What a win. How good. Ethan, you were there for that one as well.
Yeah, that was fantastic. We were yelling, and we could also see Bev rather animated on the touchline as well, tapping her watch. Yeah, to be honest, I thought this was going to go the same way as the men's team. We're down. It's our centre midfield, right? 3-4-3, two centre midfielders. You need them to be class, and we have a striker and a fullback playing centre mid. And I was like, oh, we're done for. We're down 3 imports. Samba, that was the A-League's fault, by the way. They put a post up going, she's back in the squad on match day, and then she must have done something again. So down, Samba, Leon, and Tessel. Big losses. Team we've never beaten. So, oh yeah, here we go. We know how this is going to go. We had a good couple of clear-cut chances. The diagonal through ball, similar to the one that set none up last week, worked really well. We didn't get too many of them, to be honest, but you kind of expect that against a very strong Victory side who are expected to be, at that title hunt. Yeah, Vlock is a revelation. She's fantastic. Her work ethic as well. I think she will be pushing for that starting spot when Samba's back as well. Very personal note, I think we might have looked better when we had Daisy in the midfield and Jale pushed up to main spot. I think Main's fantastic, but it just wasn't her day against the back line, and she couldn't find that space in behind, and the presence of Jale was needed a bit more. But you're right, there was a very big defensive shift. We were under the pump. They had 18 shots, but 2 of them on target. I think 12 of the shots were from outside the box. So I think that says a lot to the way we defended and how we defended. It was not good for my heart rate and my stress levels, don't get me wrong. It was dreadful to watch at some periods, but we have finally beaten Melbourne Victory. Sure, we still have other struggles that this team needs to beat, like the state of Victoria, but at least we can beat them in Wellington now, so that's fantastic, and we've ticked that one off the books. And it was a huge gutsy performance, down 4 or 5 starters, so huge.
I think our expectations when the season came in is that we were going to be one of the best sides, and we were going to be basically leading the league, and teams are going to have to come to us and try and beat us because of the amazing signings that we had. And I think most people thought that, not just people from Phoenix, but around the league. If you listen to them before the season started, they said, "Okay, the Phoenix are going to be the team to beat." Obviously, that's all changed now with the injuries. And this felt to me very much more like a last season type of game. And in fact, the squad really is not that much different from last season now. And so it was a different type of expectations and a different sort of game. And I thought we played really well. And it was very much in complete contrast to the men's. This was a very much a high energy performance. They worked hard for 99 minutes, nearly 100 minutes, all of them, everyone, up and down the pitch. Some of the less fancied members of the squad were just awesome. Manaya Elliott was just superb in that first half. She drove everything with that energy down the right wing there. Flock, there was one ball from Flock to Manaya Elliott down that diagonal. You could just watch that for days. Just an amazing ball, and she did it a couple of times the last match. She did it a couple of times this match. So it was just a really, as I say, gutsy, hard-working performance. We won it because we worked harder than anyone else did. We got our goal, and then we made sure we weren't going to let them get through our defence easily. And every member of that team did that work. So really impressive. It wasn't a game where we dominated. It wasn't a game where we were easily the better side or played much better football. We worked harder. They did all the right things in the right place, and they worked for each other. For defensively, we weren't bad. I thought Walker was very good. Again, quietly impressive. Stopped them getting down that left-hand side. Laura Wall, again, was excellent, and is really starting to get the crossing in her game now as well. Going down there and putting crosses in and balls in. She's starting to really develop into doing that as well. Again, like you, Ethan, I was quite happy when I saw Jale going up front. Again, I like MMA, but I don't think centre forward is her position. I think she needs a bit of space. I prefer a bit wider because she's got a bit of pace there. And I would have, I'm thinking, okay, if we can get Jale up front in that centre forward position and put Brayton-Dale in midfield, I would like to see that. And that did happen, but unfortunately by then we weren't really getting the ball very much at all, so we didn't really see too much. There was one potential, I think, was from a dodgy back pass that Jale nearly got through at the end. But I'd probably like to see a bit more of that in games to see how we can work with that, because some of the crossing that Nair Elliott was putting in, someone a bit taller or someone with a bit more strength about it to put that in. Maybe even Brooke Nunn in that centre forward position as well. I won't mind seeing that also. So, look, a really good performance all round, and you can see how much it meant for them when they won in the end. As I say, it wasn't probably the best performance they've put on this season, but it was certainly the gutsiest, and the result made everything worthwhile. I was really happy for them.
It'll be interesting when we get Samba back, because the idea of that person, the strong person in the middle, is supposed to be Samba. But you're right. We do need another option in that spot. And as much as I do also like MMA, and I feel like she does a little bit better, a bit wider. But we're just trying to plug that hole of who goes in centre mid. I would like to see Jale there if we don't have Samba. I think Jale's very good everywhere on the park, but I think she can be better leveraged with her skill set further up the park, which we've talked about already on the podcast. I stop banging on about it like a broken drum, but hopefully we do get Samba back, so at least we do have that as an option. And Daisy starting would be great. I mean, Daisy's a very good player. She's not someone who's flashy, but she gets stuck in, she gets stuff done. And that's what you need at centre mid. I actually think that CJ Bott has settled into centre mid really well. I think someone said her foot mob score wasn't that good for the game, but that might have been she gave away a few fouls and copped a yellow card. But I think that she's actually really growing into that, and she's strong on the ball, but she's also started picking some really good passes, which is what you want for that defensive centre mid role. Let's chat. We'll talk about the national teams in a tick, but the next game for the women is away at Cyber Control Patrick, the Melbourne City Academy, Casey Fields, away Sunday, 7th of December, 5 p.m. New Zealand time. City haven't played many games in the A-League, but they have been tearing it up in the Asian Champions League. So they've had still a fair bit of football on. They're a good team, but you know what? Especially if we get Summer back, maybe this is our chance to actually get a win in Victoria. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think even going away to City and getting a draw would actually be a good result, But I agree, this isn't the type of squad that goes and aims for draws away. This is one of the better times we can have to go and win it. Sure, there were a few interesting moments from our game that needed to get ironed out, I think. Bot, I think, got just dispossessed in caught napping a couple of times. Vandermeer was just a little shaky, and Essen at points as well. But I think that's not something that's likely to continue. We have a 2-week break back, so we can hopefully get one of our or two of our players back. Well, at least Samba back. But yeah, and then it gives us a bit more freedom. Means we have someone like a Main or a Jale or a Vlog on the bench for that extra game-changing ability. I guess it's kind of, we're a little depleted because we're down, I think, 5 or 6 starters at the moment. But yeah, City will be a test. They are also one of the big teams in this league. So look, if we go over there and win, then that's a statement of intent, and we then will have to go and follow that up real close for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough match. I think if we get Samba back, and then just that creates that little bit more depth that we have, or what we can do with it, then we could be aiming for a point. As I say, I think it's going to be tough. We're not going to go there, and we're not going to play them off the park. But they'll take so much out of the win at the weekend, just in terms of morale and their belief of what they can do. And look, Beth Priestman, she's a great coach. She'll have them set up in the right way. She'll have watched. I'm sure she's watched all the City's games. She'll know what she's up against, and we've got every chance of getting a result out of it. But it will be tough. So I'm not saying we're going to win. As you say, I'd be pretty happy with a draw as well. With a fighting draw, yeah, be happy with that.
They don't have Speckmeyer anymore, do they? Oh, good.
No, she's gone over. She's at Durham with Mickey Foster, I think.
That's right. Yes. Okay. Because otherwise that becomes a bit of a hate watch on that count. All right. Well, that'll be interesting to see. So that is in 2 weeks' time. Coming up, we will first mention the Ferns. The Ferns are playing 2 games over here in Australia versus the Matildas. The first of which is this Friday, November the 28th. The kickoff is 9:30 p.m. New Zealand time. That's in Gosford. Danny and I will be there. It'll be really, really exciting to go. I feel like I haven't seen the Ferns in ages, probably because they only ever play like in Europe and in the Americas. It's wild. I can't believe that neither of these games is in New Zealand. I don't know what New Zealand football are doing. Anyway, well, Danny and I will get to enjoy it, and those of us who are based over here. Tuesday, December the 2nd, 10:30 p.m. New Zealand time kickoff will be in Adelaide. How are we feeling about this one? The Matildas they've got Sam Kerr back. Their other big star, like Ellie Carpenter, is back. Oh, she's been back for a while, but they've got some of their really big players. They've got no Izzy Gomez there, so they've got no chance. With no Izzy Gomez, no chance of beating us at all.
Look, I think it's going to be a rough one, to be honest. The Ferns are in and out of form. I watched a bit of the games, and yeah, just a lot of solid defensively. I think both our men and women's teams have a similar problem where we're really solid defensively, solid in the midfield, but a lot of the players can't turn their club form into international form, and the depth isn't there in the attacking third for the national sides. So it looks like a pretty bad window coming off, I think, a 9-0 aggregate over 3 games. Not helped by the USA. Thanks for that. But yes, also don't get me started on why we're not playing in New Zealand. It's ridiculous. I think the Ferns have maybe played once back. And it might have been like 2 Thailand games in Christchurch. So, you've got Wellington or Auckland, where women's football is strong. Yeah. Diabolical. Backwards step. But yeah, I think it's going to be, I'll watch the games definitely, but yeah, it could be in for some interesting viewing. This will be a bit rough for us, and I'm not particularly optimistic, but anything can happen in football.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, and unfortunately, it's going to be one of those games again. Watching the Ferns, where we're just going to be looking at them defending and maybe getting 1 or 2 chances going forward, which is never as exciting. It'd be nice to see them play against a team where they can actually show something else, so show a bit of attacking ability. But we are where we are. Australia are that much better than the Ferns realistically. So if this is a game we can get, then we've got to play it. So any kind of result would be great. I'd be happy with a decent performance, maybe showing maybe a goal, maybe a little bit going forward, and not just literally packing the defence. That would be nice. Look, I'm really happy I get to go see them, but I can't believe, again, they're not playing in New Zealand. If you look, over here, the Matildas are bigger than the Socceroos in terms of their draw, and the number of times they've played here at home since the World Cup is huge. And they've just built that entire brand around the Matildas so well and so big, and it's too late now for Football New Zealand to do that after the World Cup, because the World Cup's ancient history now. But imagine if they had, what could we have done? That would have been good, but okay, again, don't want to go on about it because there's nothing we can affect. So I'm looking forward to the game because it'll be fun, whatever. And I'm just looking to see some of the players showing us how good they can be on the international stage.
And if you can't see the little corner of white on the TV screen like you can when you usually watch a game at Central Coast Stadium, that is because Football Australia has put the away bay on the camera side and not on the far side. So you'll be used to seeing trickle bits of us up there at the top of that stand on the away bay, but it's on the wrong side. We're there though. We will be there and we will be making noise. The other national team, our men, they had a bit of a mixed bag in terms of performances. So they lost 2-1 to Colombia. There was a goal to Ben Old and a 2-0 loss to Ecuador. I feel like the Ecuador performance was actually better. Danny, I know you watched all of them, so let us know what you think.
Yeah, I thought the two games, which I enjoyed watching both of them, but I think they really showed our place in the world, if you like, and what we can expect when we go to a World Cup. We were missing most of our big stars. So Wood wasn't playing, Thomas wasn't playing, Katia wasn't playing, Alec Porter wasn't playing, all out during injury. So it wasn't our strongest side, but people were playing with the people who were playing. We came up against Colombia, who's probably the best, also the highest rated side we've played in quite a long time. And we were really good. We were really good. We took the game to them. We didn't just sit back and defend. They were a very good side. Their goal after 3 minutes was just cut us open, and you think, we could be in trouble here. But we didn't crumble. We came back. We fought hard. We had a few chances here and there. Barbarosa's playing up front. He only needs 1 or 2 chances. He, did all right. We defended really well. It was just a really good performance against a side who really should be putting it away and who didn't play badly themselves, but they were good. And these are the kind of performances, if we're going to get anything out of the World Cup, it is what we need, And Ben Old scored when he came on. Him and Jess Randall came on and, really injected some energy, as you would hope they would do with the kind of speed they have. Randall carried on his form with Auckland, was excellent, had a really good shot, and then put the ball across, and Ben Old was the first one there again, showing sort of speed and tenacity that he does to score. And that was it. It looked like we were getting a draw. We're going to pull a draw basically away from home, even though it was in America, but 95% of the people there were Colombian, against a team rated, I think, 13 in the world, who put their best side out. It was going to be one of the greatest results that New Zealand have had for a long time. And then they booted the ball up high in the air down the end of the pitch. Storm Rue let it bounce, and their attacker just said, "Yeah, thanks very much." And we lost 2-1. And I was really disappointed with the result. But looking back, the performance was one of the best ones we've had for a long, long time. And it was really good. And you look at that and then you think, you know what, the World Cup, we might be able to do something. If we can put a performance like that against a side as good as that, maybe we could do something. And then we played Ecuador, who aren't quite as highly ranked as Colombia, but had a really good World Cup qualifying campaign. They're defensively been excellent. And they just shut us down completely. And we didn't do anything. We couldn't do anything. They were that much better than us. And that showed the other side of the coin, that teams who are better than us can display that they're better than us, and not really anything we can do about it. They just didn't let us have a sniff. And they scored 2 goals. They could have had more. They didn't destroy us, but we didn't get anywhere close to going up the other end. And again, without that one class striker we have in Chris Wood, we really struggle. Because we need more than 1 chance to score a goal, and Ben Wayne needs 2 or 3 chances to score a goal, and even Barbarosa needs 2 chances to score a goal, and we just weren't creating that. And, we didn't play badly. We just couldn't touch them. They were just that much better. They were so defensively organised that we just couldn't get through them. And they took a couple of chances and scored. So that was sort of, we had the hope and the optimism of the Colombia game, and then we had the reality of the Ecuador game of where we're sitting. We didn't play badly in either the match we played. I thought we played really well against Colombia. I thought we played reasonably well against Ecuador. We're just not that good as a side, and that's just the nature of where we're at. Some players played really well. I thought Sarpreet Singh was excellent and back to his best, and I thought he was really good. Michael Boxall in the first leg was superb. Finn Sermon's great over both games. Really, really impressive defender. I think he's probably going to move on from America very soon. I think he's going to go to Europe and do really well. Just quality. Other players did all right, but showed where they are. Franny de Vries, who looks really good in the A-League, showed that he's an A-League player. Wasn't bad, but he's just not up to that sort of standard, and Kache will be that much better. Tuiloma was good defensively, but doesn't really get forward that much. Garbett works hard, and Stamanic is pretty good quality as well. Overall, I was really optimistic about that window. We didn't play badly. I thought all the players played as well as they could. I think I said I was vaguely thinking sort of quite positively about Darren Baisley, but I don't want to say that in public. He's setting this team up reasonably well. The players are playing to the best of their ability, and we're almost getting results. But I guess, as importantly, we're not getting results. We haven't won a game in quite a long time, so we probably need to get into the habit of actually getting a result out of the bag before we go to the World Cup next year.
Oh, right. Well, thanks for joining us. And Ethan, I forgot to mention where you were after mentioning us being on Gadigal land in Sydney. Are you still in the hut?
Yes, in the mighty lower hut.
The mighty lower hut, which is Heratanga, the hut. So thank you for joining us. I know that you've been involved with some of the yellow fever stuff. What have you guys been up to? I know you've got 12 pubs coming up at some stage. How are things going with you guys? I loved the banner for, actually, we should mention for Steph.
Yeah.
Steph Clark, he's a long-term Wellington Phoenix fan, has been part of the Fever, has been part of the fan rep group, and he's a massive loss. And it was really good to see the way that the crowd have really got behind remembering him. Otherwise, yes, how have things been for the Fever? What you got coming up?
Yeah, it's been good on the whole. As kind of was alluded to in the off season, just a couple of those core ones needed a break because they'd been anchoring the ship for a good 8 to 10 years themselves, and they just they have families and commitments and these sorts of things. They're still around in the stands every week, but sometimes they're a bit of a change of guard. But so myself and some of my friends and, dare I say, some of the more younger people have taken up a little bit of an extra role there, and leaning on the group of strong fans we have. Tried not to change anything too much because you know how much football fans love change. Can't rock the boat. But yeah, so we're looking at a similar Auckland march. We had quite a good march for the women's opening game, actually. That was quite a big turnout for that. I was quite impressed. 12 pubs. 21st of December versus the Mariners, so we might actually have a chance there. Come along. Even if you don't drink, come along. It's always a really good time to meet people. It's actually how I kind of met a few of the people, the Core Fever, and my good mate Smitty. He just kind of appeared next to us at a pub, and then he just appeared next to us at the next pub, and by the end of the day, we were best mates. So yeah. And then the other big one is we've got the Fever Tour. That's something we've been working on and bringing that back after a few years without a tour. So yes, we're coming over to Canberra and Sydney for Wellington anniversary weekend. So it's a public holiday. You get the Monday off if you're from Wellington. So yeah, going over for the women's game on the Saturday, catching the stupid o'clock in the morning train to Sydney, and then going to the Sydney FC game at Allianz. So that'll be really good fun. I think we've got about nearly 20 confirmed as well, so that'll be good. And yeah, good time. So really excited for that. Getting into away trips and yeah, be able to catch up with all those Sydney-based fans and Little Connery Yellows. It'll be my first time going to Sydney for a game, so that'll be quite exciting for me too. Yeah, that's but from the Yellow Fever side of things. So
Yeah, we're absolutely looking forward to seeing the Fever Tour. And yep, 12 pubs, at least it's not a double header match day this time, because that sounded really horrendous last time. But yeah, otherwise just join the Fever in the Stand, or follow them on social media or wherever it is that you can get involved, because they're great. Thanks for coming on, Ethan, and thanks for joining us today. Macarthur.